I almost want to ask you how much of your day is spent. You've been an athletic director for a long time. How much of your day is spent doing normal athletic director things that you would do in a regular year, and how much of your day is spent doing other things?
It's the majority of other things right now. It's just crazy with everything going on. But it's all part of it. You know, you have to be ready for it. That's the nature of it.
Scott, was this something that you're ready for, right? Because you knew there was going to be a bump in the road somewhere, and you just didn't know when it was coming. And the first couple of weeks, well, they go off smoothly, but now, yes, it's unfortunate that it happened. But I've got to assume that you and your team were kind of ready for when that first bump did come along.
Yeah, you know, you're always ready, and I always use the term. I don't want to sound like we know it all, but we're not shocked, but we're surprised, and you know, just we knew early on, and we always had to be prepared for things you couldn't imagine, and these are starting to happen, and it's just one after the other after the other. You just see. I mean, you guys know it. You're in the news business. The news cycle's so chock-a-block full, a story's dead in an hour, and because there's so many other stories, and it's just a nightmare to keep up with. But you know, we try to focus on what we're doing and how we're doing it here, and do the best we can, which I think we are.
Scott, there were contingencies built into the restart of the season, starting with the delay to not play games until the end of September and adding the additional week in December for games that had to be made up. Now that four teams have had to reschedule a game, if there are additional reschedules for the same teams, is the league now going into contingency plans for if LSU or Florida or Missouri or Vanderbilt or anybody else has to reschedule a second game?
Sure. You know, you have open date weeks that are on the table that people are going to look at, and sure, and you know, how is this going to equate to standings at the end of the year? There's all kinds of discussions and all kinds of tiebreakers we're talking about for the end of the year if certain teams don't get to play a certain amount of games and how it's counted, and there's not a final determination yet, but we're getting close on some of those tiebreakers.
Is one of those contingencies that divisional games in the reschedule will take priority over non-divisional games?
Not necessarily. That's not. I mean, I think what people are debating is probably standings of hey, where does it matter for the conference championship game, and do those take priority over the ones that don't? And when are those made up, and are they made up first? I think there's flexibility and there's discussion. There's not been final decision making on that.
Obviously, a lot of people, know the rule now. 53 players available to play in these games, and so when you kind of get a team that's close, if you get a team that's at 55, is that still a conversation, Scott, that you can have? Maybe, hey, we got 55 guys. I know the number's 53, but we just don't feel like we have enough players to go out there and play safely.
Yeah, and as you know, we have certain positions that have thresholds as well, offensive line, quarterback, that, hey, is it safe for the game and is it safe for the kids? And we have to take all that into account. And so, I would be really surprised if someone tried to game it. I think for the most part, everyone wants to get these games off.
Scott Woodward is our guest, LSU Athletic Director. Scott, let me back up to the reschedule for Hurricane Delta. That obviously had to throw you guys into a mode where you had to make a lot of changes in a hurry. What does that do for your department? I'm thinking about the staffing, the financial hit that you take. How does that work when you have to reschedule a game for a different venue on essentially 48 hours notice?
Yeah, Charlie, great question. Organized chaos, how about that? But we were very lucky from the revenue standpoint because the league had the fortitude and the foresight to have interruption insurance. So we were covered for for this game, the Missouri game. We were covered for our revenue and for our expenses and Missouri was covered for its expenses. And that's my only good thing that came out of that game, in my opinion. And I say that jokingly, obviously, but it was an atrocious game for us on the field. But I think from a safety and health standpoint and how we played it and how we planned it, I think we did the best that we could possibly do, and I'm proud of the staff, and I'm proud of the kids for adjusting, pivoting, and playing the game.
Scott, what I remember, we learned a little bit about interruption insurance when LSU's game with McNeese a few years ago was stopped a few minutes in, and what I remember about it back then was that it didn't make you whole. Has the insurance improved?
I hope so. That's the SEC's problem, not ours.
Okay.
So, they'll do battle, I'm sure, with the underwriter, and I'll cheer them on well, Charlie. How about
I understand.
that?
Hey, like you don't have enough going on. Obviously, over the last couple of days, we heard the Saints were potentially in talks to maybe come play in Tiger Stadium. This is just a year that every single day, when you open up the newspaper, if you still open up a newspaper like Hanny does,
Yeah.
there is something that is like groundbreaking and something that not even necessarily a problem, but just news, and it just sends people in all different directions.
It does, Jacob, and that's the thing. What we wanted to do with the Saints is be a good neighbor and a good partner. They've been great to us, when I was here, and they've been great to us since I've been here. And hey, selfishly, we're going to need them one day, and we're going to have use of the Superdome maybe in an emergency situation. So you always want to be a good neighbor and help out when you can. And that's the most important thing that we're trying to accomplish is just being good guys during this COVID thing, and being thoughtful and being considerate, because the selfish thing to do is, hey, go bug off. We don't have time. We got our own problems, and we're not doing that. We're hey, open arms. We can help you, great. And if not, no skin off our nose, and we're here if we can do something to help you.
Scott, I know that you are in contact and the league is in contact with all of its members about constantly adjusting the protocols. Have there been any talks this week about these are things that we may need to change to get the season finished?
Not really. I think for the most part, pretty much things are what you see is what it is, and there's nothing really that's a surprise from that standpoint. And we're just trying to get through it and do the best we can. But hey, like I told you, anything's possible and anything's likely, and so we're prepared to see it if it comes our way, and we will deal with it when it does come.
I promised you we'd talk about football at some point. Unfortunately, we have to put that off for another week, so I'll try to keep my promise next week on the pregame. Scott, thanks for spending a few minutes with us. I know you're busy. Thanks for your time.
No, guys, it's always a pleasure, and always want you and your listeners to know what's going on the best we can tell. We try to be as open as we can be and tell you what's going on. And you guys ask great questions, and it's very healthy. And I just want you guys to know, and your listeners to know, that we're working tirelessly, and I couldn't be more proud of my staff and coaches for going the extra mile. And just wanted to get that lick in for them, and thank you guys for